I don't know if it's fair to assume that every FOID card owner also has a semi-automatic firearm, but I do know that there's a lot of frustration, a lot of questions about this topic. I hope we can provide further clarification. But again, this is not going to be something that makes the state of Illinois more safe, in my opinion, and we continue to erode upon the rights of law-abiding gun owners and do everything that we can to be beneficial and giving benefits of the doubt to people that are committing truly awful crimes and making the state of Illinois less safe.
So that's State Representative Ryan Spain yesterday with Republicans during the first day of fall veto session at the Illinois State House, reacting to the January 1st deadline for people to register their firearms with state police if they fit the category of what lawmakers defined as assault weapons. And if they don't register with Illinois State Police by January 1st, they could face criminal penalties. Well, we've been updating you every week as those new numbers get reported by Illinois State Police. And now week 3, you've got the latest statistics showing that about 0.08% of firearm owner ID card holders in Illinois have actually registered their firearms. Let's take a look at the latest stats there. Illinois State Police saying a number of individuals, 2,046, disclosing that they have these certain types of firearms. Again, keep in mind, you've got the total number of FOID card holders at 2.4 million. So the numbers posted, I believe, late last night. I didn't see it until earlier this morning when I refreshed the statistics page with Illinois State Police. They say now 2,046. If you recall, the first week it was like 1,050 when the registry opened up October 1st. 1,050, 1050 of 2.4 million FOID card holders granted. That was about 0.004%, I believe. Now you've got the second week, there were 1,600 or so that had filed disclosures, and that was about 0.007%. But now you have 2,046 individuals filing those disclosures. And that's a percentage that's pretty low, and I think I calculated that earlier this morning when I put it together. It's actually 0.08%. So it was 0.04% for the first week. It was 0.07% for the second week, and now it's 0.08% for week 3. So those numbers being reported by Illinois State Police, obviously not everybody who has a firearm owner identification card is going to have a semi-automatic firearm, but indication is some firearm owner ID card holders registering have multiple, and that's just evidenced by the numbers. Again, 2,046 individuals disclosing. A total number of firearms disclosed, 3,880. What's interesting is you get into the accessories and the ammunition disclosures, and there may be some questions as to what exactly is an accessory. Now, we do have Illinois State Police. They're set to have a public hearing in Springfield early next month. We'll talk a lot more about that coming up. We'll definitely be covering that and be on the ground in Springfield when they hold that public hearing. But clearly, you've got concerns about the definitions of these things. Something else, too, and I'd love to hear from you. Comment below if you have received any official documentation, any official note in the mail from Illinois State Police outlining this registration requirement. Have you, yes or no, comment below, received any official mail from Illinois State Police spelling out that if you don't register your firearm owner identification card number with a banned semi-automatic firearm, that you could face criminal penalties? Have you received any type of note like that? Would love to hear from you. Again, you can comment below here on YouTube, or if you're following along on Twitter, you can do that as well. Just search Bishop on Air. So the latest statistics there, but you've got a deadline of January 1st coming up. We'll talk about other deadlines coming up for other issues at the State House, but State Representative Ryan Spain yesterday, when I talked with him during a news conference, I asked him about this deadline approaching. He's on the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules, where he's, raised issue about the rules, how they might be too vague, how they're looking for some more definition in the rules. And here's Representative Spain addressing some of those issues, especially with the January 1st deadline approaching, and now only 5 legislative days scheduled before the end of the year. Are they going to be able to address these issues?
Sure. Well, thanks for the question. This is a major topic. I know we're receiving lots of questions from constituents about this issue. You see, law-abiding gun owners really do care about the laws, and it just shows you the ineffectiveness of creating this type of legislation, whether it's banning certain firearms or forcing registration, because it's the criminals who will be non-compliant. We have had a number of questions for the Illinois State Police. They presented or attended our last Joint Committee on Administrative Rules last week. They currently have emergency rules that are in place. That was a requirement imposed upon them, and then are considering permanent rules going forward. So we have asked the state police to hold public hearings throughout the state. So here in Springfield, in the Chicagoland area, and down in southern Illinois, in the Metro East rather, to allow members of the public to ask a lot of questions that they have. Many of them are very technical in nature about certain attachments, magazines or modifications to firearms, questions about purchases that were made during the holiday or TRO period back in January that were done with clear intentions that those purchases were to be legal. Now that's disputed by the Attorney General's office and the state police, and there's a lot of questions on this topic. So I expect to hear more about it. We have a JCAR meeting scheduled for the first day of veto session in 2 weeks, so 2 weeks from now in November. So we will hear a report from the Illinois State Police about the questions that we have already submitted as a committee, and the new questions that come forward from advocacy groups and individual citizens that just say, boy, there are a lot of issues with this legislation that was passed. Again, legislation passed in a rush under lame duck circumstances delivers these type of results. Major issues with their implementation.
So clearly you've got questions still about how exactly this is going to be implemented. And he said that, there's law-abiding citizens in Illinois that want to comply with the law, but some have already indicated that they aren't going to comply. Does that mean that they're going to move their firearms outside of state? Somebody on Twitter this morning said that there's like 80% of Illinoisans who live close to the state border. Could they just transfer their firearms out of state? But what does that do to those who live internally and don't have the means to transfer firearms outside of the state? So the questions there, questions about the TROs and the preliminary injunction period for people who were just following the law. Courts putting an injunction on the state from enforcing it, and they went out and purchased semi-automatic firearms. What about those individuals? Still some substantial questions. Again, State Representative Ryan Spain.
Well, I hope not. That's one of the concerns that we certainly have and indicated as such during the presentation of this bill back in the lame duck session. I don't know if it's fair to assume that every FOID card owner also has a semi-automatic firearm, but I do know that there's a lot of frustration, a lot of questions about this topic. I hope we can provide further clarification. But again, this is not going to be something that makes the state of Illinois more safe, in my opinion, and we continue to erode upon the rights of law-abiding gun owners and do everything that we can to be beneficial and giving benefits of the doubt to people that are committing truly awful crimes and making the state of Illinois less safe.
So we'll see exactly what happens. Of course, only 5 legislative days left. Are they going to take up State Senator Jason Plummer's bill to hold harmless those who are owning of firearms that were purchased during an injunction period? These are questions that have yet to even be broached. The status of legal challenges of Illinois' gun and magazine ban. Just to take a look here, we've got the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals, who has not had any movement in the case. The last thing happened was 5 days ago with various plaintiffs groups filing that additional authority following California judge striking down that state's ban on certain types of firearms. So still waiting for the U.S. 7th Circuit Court of Appeals to have a ruling. They heard that case back in June. Meanwhile, you've got the Southern District of Illinois case that Thomas Magg brought against the state's gun and magazine ban on vagueness challenges. They heard that in court. We, of course, covered that in detail. If you missed that video, be sure to search my channel for it. But you've got the latest filing there. The response back and forth between the state and the plaintiffs groups in the Southern District of Illinois. But that's not the only case we've been watching. We've also been watching the Myers v. Kelly case, which deals with the FOID card. That is still pending in the Southern District with, looks like you've got a trial set for November 18th. So we'll be watching that and putting that on the calendar as well. So a lot of different court cases still pending, still playing out while the January 1st deadline approaches for some kind of registration, or if you don't register and you're found out of compliance, you could face a Class A misdemeanor for the first offense and a Class 3 felony for a second or subsequent offense. So we'll definitely be monitoring all of that and updating you each and every morning here. I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for hanging out. And comment below. Again, I want to know if you have received or haven't received a letter from Illinois State Police. I'm going to ask them if they intend to send those letters out, but we'll obviously be updating you on that and whether or not they're going to send letters out notifying firearms owners that they have to register their semi-automatic weapons, and maybe they'll have definitions. You know, what's an attachment? Which weapon are you talking about? So we'll see if that ultimately happens. So be sure to like and subscribe. Follow me anywhere. Just search Bishop on Air.